I'm very pleased and honored to give this TED Talk here today because I want to make sure that I share with you a little bit about something that's very dear and near personal to me, which is my revelation. Just as Pradeep mentioned, I'm originally from Venezuela. My parents brought me here at the age of 11 in the year 2000. I lived a normal life. My parents did so. And after living here for 6 years and making sure that that I succeeded in my academics and contributed back to society just as my parents did, I stumbled upon the realization that in 2006, as I filled out my applications to go to Florida State or UCF and USF, that something was lacking in my life. That I was not like every other student that had gotten a letter of acceptance. And that was the fact that I was undocumented. And that means that I don't have a legal presence in the United States of America. That means that I could be deported in any way, at any time from here up until tomorrow, next week, and I really don't know when that's going to be. But knowing that, not only did it spark a sense of self-reliance and seeking out help into others, it sparked something else within me. It sparked a sense that I, myself, had to do something for the rest of my family, for those who have brought me here and taught me the value that education and hard work could pay off. Not only for myself, but for anybody who had a dream just like mine. So I said to myself, well, perhaps there's a way that I can fix this. I'm not a lawyer. I don't want to go to law school. So there goes that. But at the time, I did. At the time, I felt like it was my responsibility to know so much about the subject that not only did I learn about it, but I perfected it. And that what I learned and perfected also became an educational tool for others. But because of my circumstances and because of the roadblocks that I have in front of me, I said to myself, well, I'm not able to drive. I'm not able to travel. And certainly college is a little bit out of reach now in 2007 to me. So I said, why not take to the internet? The internet connects us all to a myriad of people all across the world. It shares ideas, it gives us information, and a lot of us do use it on a day-to-day basis to make sure that we get the work that we set out to do and accomplish. So I did exactly just that. I went online on a message board that looked just exactly like this one, and I said to myself, I need to make sure that I share my story and I share what I know and what my inspiration, my revelation is. So I went on this message board and I said, my name is Juan Escalante, I'm undocumented, and I'm really scared because the government may be tracking this message, and if I disappear, oh, please God, someone help me. And, at the time, I was very selfish because in my mind, it was all about me. I cared about my brothers and my family, but in my head, it was all about how can I get myself to an American university, get myself an American, a degree, a college degree, and move on with my life. And I just typed, the message right on the message board, and within a couple of weeks, I received a response from someone who said, well, there's a group of people on this message board that want to hear your idea. What do you have to provide to make sure that whatever policy drives us towards social change becomes a reality? And I said, well, what if we use social media? This is 2007, 2008. Twitter was brand new. Facebook was still a little bit in its diaper stages. So I said, well, if we're able to implement these tools, which are free to us, a lot of us don't have, we can't work, we don't have money, we have limited resources, but if we use these tools and we bring about everything that we know and we put it out there for people, for the 12 million undocumented people who live in this country, maybe there's a discussion worth having. And they said, well, we love that. And at the end of the, I'm facing my computer and these people are telling me, strangers, mind you, we love that. And not only do we love that, we want to make sure that we explore that we implement that into our strategy so that whatever public policy comes down through the US government gets implemented. So why don't you come to Washington, D.C., we're going there in a month, and we'll hear you out. So I said, sure, why not? After all, I don't have anything to lose. I told my parents, well, I booked my flight to Washington, D.C., and to their dismay, they're like, how dare you? Because, as we're raised, our generation is raised, don't ever meet people over the internet. Don't go on Craigslist and put your information, and don't ever go and meet a stranger offline. And I said, you know what whatever. This is the only chance that I know because my driver's license expired, and I know I can renew it. And it's the only thing that I have to bank and to invest from myself to know that not only I'm not alone, but there's others seeking this information. And that my idea can potentially come to fruition. So I went off to Washington, D.C. And I remember standing in front of the Verizon Center and picking up my phone, and my friend, one of the girls who I had spoken to on the message board says, "Hey Juan, we're in this gold car and we're about to come up the corner. Jerry, pin the car right now." So I jump in the car and I'm like, "Okay, are you Mo? Are you Maria?" And they're like, "Yes, of course." And I'm like, "Okay, good. As long as I'm not being kidnapped and I'm not gonna be murdered, we should be good." So from there on, from that moment on, from that specific risk, from that specific initial investment that I made on, not only myself and my circumstances, but I made on everybody else, everything just kind of took form, and it just flew out of my hands from there on forth. I said that I went to Washington, D.C., and I did. Not only did I meet with, congressional leaders such as Senator Dick Durbin, who was sponsoring a bill that could essentially resolve my situation and that of millions of students across this nation, but I met with other leaders who said, we like your idea. We want to make sure that we give you the tools, give you the support so that you can drive it forth. You want to create a space for undocumented people like yourself to speak? So be it. And we'll stand right behind it. But what I didn't know is that the people who were telling me this outside of congressional leaders, outside of nonprofit organizations, were students. Like myself, like yourselves. Students like these. FSU students. And they said, "We like your work. You should come to Florida State." And I said, "Well, I need some sort of help, and can we do that?" "Don't worry, everything will be taken care of. Just make sure you apply, you get in, and we'll take care of the rest." So I did just that, and I came to Florida State University, and I don't regret a single bit of it. But what I also did in the meantime is that, and something that I corresponded to a couple of my colleagues the other day, is that I was a student by day. I was a student leader in the afternoon, and at night, without anybody knowing in this university except for a selected few, I was an activist. I dedicated my time to sitting on the internet and just doing just that, and sending tweets and sending Facebook messages and linking people together in groups and said, we need to make sure that whatever happens in Congress gets passed. This is 2009, going on 2010 now. And here we are, a community of people, who can't drive, again, can't fly, can't hold a job. And we're coming together, breaking barriers, again, all over the social sphere, in the sense that we don't know each other. We're blasting over these bridges of the fact that we don't know each other and just making friends right over the internet. And that their resources become my resources. And our movement just grows by making those connections over social media. And after years and years of work, here I am, 2012, and I must say that, unfortunately, the public policy which I've been working for has not passed. But what we have gathered here is that we made that space that I referred to. We launched a website that empowered other people, that all the information that I have gathered for years have been put to fruition in the sense of training manuals, guides, resources, calls to action, things that people could digest and that other people could pick up and not only become informed about the subject, but also expand it within their own networks. Eventually, I graduated from Florida State University last December. Well, probably one of my proudest accomplishments, because I never thought, after 2007, that I was ever going to be able to reach that goal. And it became a reality to me after so much time spending behind my phone and my computer, and which some of my friends criticized me about it, but it works. And I'm not here to tell you that, if you go on your iPhone and you just send a tweet out and you say, "Well, I won $1 million," that's going to become true, which, I would love for that to happen, but let's be realistic. The point that I'm trying to make here is that if you believe in your revelation, and if you believe just as much as I did behind an idea that you can reach whatever you set out to do, then nothing's impossible, right? And the ways that we get there are different. We don't always take a one design path. I took off a year from college and eventually worked my way up to ensure that this was, what I wanted, and I accomplished it. So, just as I mentioned, we launched DreamActivist.org, which was the first undocumented student action network. We put forth all those resources. People digested it. People praised it. People said, this is the best thing that has ever happened for undocumented youth out there. because nothing had been done about this subject, and it had been for almost a decade that it had been launched. And we said, well, here it is. So what can we do with it now? So we started gathering, deploying organizers all over the country. And we said, okay, well, teach people how to utilize these tools. I, unfortunately, due to school, which is my first priority, was unable to travel all the time, but I often, signed up onto Skype and met up with people and said, this is how you use Twitter, this is how you use Facebook, this is how these are the tactics that you can implement to make sure that not only you and this movement are empowered, but your community learn from this and also bring about change that you want to see within your community. Eventually, we grew so big that we launched another website, okay? And we said, we need to make sure that people are not only digesting our material and sharing it across social networks, but that they're also implementing it. And we launched several acts of civil disobedience just by using the internet. People we have never met before were volunteering to get arrested for a cause that they saw as being unjust. And we had not met them before. Something outstanding. Because it's one thing for me to tell you, hey, we have this great cause, would you be willing to, participate in civil disobedience? And you probably will tell me yes or no. But for somebody in the internet to take the time and volunteer their, themselves, their lives, their careers, and doing it is something that was mind-blowing at the time for us, okay? Eventually, we have launched other products that have catered to the same audience, because those don't exist. And it's such a taboo and it's such a politically charged topic in today's America that we felt that we needed to make sure that we brought it up, that we were able to make sure that no matter what the need for it was, we were catering it, and that we were pushing as much as we could, whether it was about volunteer time, whether it was paid, whether we had to come up with it and do the research ourselves and make the studies ourselves, we were destined and we were going to do it no matter what. And then came UndocuHelp, which is a project that we just launched, and it serves the needs of undocumented immigrants, such as myself, who are going through rough times and need mental assistance, whether it's by the internet, by phone, and we're set to launch a hotline out of it. We're getting some funding, thankfully. So again, this is all done by social networks. You put forth an idea, people pick it up, and eventually your dream, not only of reaching a college degree just like I did, but of sparking that conversation and making sure that people are no longer afraid or that they're hiding behind a computer screen, disappears. People are building a community around this. And up until today, I haven't told a lot of the community here at FSU, but it's no secret. It's all over the news. If you were to Google my name and type in immigration next to it, you could see the type of work that everybody has been doing, and people are sharing all over the world just to educate other people. So what does that bring us to? The power of networks, how powerful networks really are. And I brought this example yesterday, and I was speaking with one of the organizers for the event, and I said, well, a network is just, a bunch of people or a bunch of ideas, something that you can essentially branch out not only from the center and divulge it across, your network, but something that can come out from the outside and just come together towards a unique center. So if I were to pick up my phone today and I texted any one of you, or any one of my friends today and I said, hey, I needed a ride, they may say yes or no. But if I texted my whole phone book or I posted a tweet about it, my options become more valid because people are more receptive to my ask, to my question, to my desire. And there's nothing wrong with that. Ask and you shall receive, right? So networks are powerful things. And now that the internet is taking a more social approach where it's not only about posting out content and just looking at it so that people may see it. It's about responses. It's about creating conversation. It's about impressions, about what people want to see, about what people want to hear. It's about information. It's about activism. It's a concept that you take not only that conversation, but you apply it to your community. You want to end world hunger? You can do it. Okay? You want to bring about immigration reform? You can do it. It's all about making sure that we're pushing those ideas out there. And we're empowering communities so that one day, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week, maybe not next year, but eventually the goal will be there. And as technology continues to advance, we will make sure that we get there in one way or another. This is Frank. And just to illustrate my example and how it becomes a reality for other people, because I don't want to dwell on politically charged themes, Frank is a journalist. and he visited a protest that was ongoing in 2006 in Egypt. And as part of his job, Frank is a photographer. Frank ended up being arrested by Egyptian police, and as an American citizen, he had nowhere to go. As part of his job, and before his arrest, he just sent out one word over Twitter. Arrested. So for the people that knew that Frank was out there, or the people who didn't know, or were able to trace back that tweet to him, got on the phone, and after 48 hours, the State Department said, Frank is free. And that's just one example as to how powerful these type of networks that we build are upon social media. Same thing happened in Burma, a small southeastern country located in Asia. The Burmese government in 1962 said, no more journalists during demonstrations because our government shut down, and whatever protests or whatever protesters are on the streets will be dealt with accordingly. 2008 came about, Facebook group came about and said, well, here is what's going on in Burma over these protests. And the media just started picking this up and shining a light on what exactly was going on in this developing country. Again, something as small as a tweet or a Facebook post can gather a lot of attention to a specific issue that people may not know about or that people may be silenced about and spark this huge revolution that may just take feet of its own and walk away. And it starts just like that. It starts with your revelation, cyber activism, revolution. And the center part is obviously important because that's where your leverage is. And as some of the examples that I showed, hopefully it gets to that to you today. And just to kind of bring it into all perspectives is a concept that I like to call the 3 E's. Expose, educate, and expand. And that's something that some of my colleagues here today have heard before. But it's not too far-fetched when you apply it to concepts like this when it comes to social media or educating other people about your social cause, about what you want to do and what you want to accomplish. I wanted to accomplish my college degree and bring about comprehensive immigration reform. So I exposed people to the issue, I educated them about the subject, and I expanded my reach so that people understood what I was doing, so that people knew and that were active, they will stand up and speak about. But the thing that that I take away from everything that I have discussed here today is that, and thankfully to this TED Talk, is that your revelation, yes, it may drive revolutions, just like it did for me. But at the same time, your revolution becomes your own revelation, because even though that I wanted and I decided so much to bring about all the change that I did and create all these groups and all these spaces to educate people on, I realized that it wasn't just social networking. And I think that's something that Mark Zuckerberg said last year about it when talking about his website, Facebook, has a lot to do with it. Facebook was neither nor sufficient for any of those things, in this case the Arab Spring, to happen. The thing that was necessary and sufficient was the population of people that felt very strongly about the change that needed to happen. All he needed to do was put forth a channel for those people to do it. And he may not be wanting to credit it to his website, but the tools are out there. The tools are in our pockets. And you may say, well, Juan, a lot of, maybe it's here in the United States, but what about developing countries? Well, a recent poll shows that there's over 4.1 billion cell phones activated out there. And 2/3 of those are in developing countries. And those tools can bring about change in those countries just if we were able to organize and if we were able to educate people just as we continue to do in a population that continues to live in the shadows and continues to live in fear. So I hope that a lot of you have understood as to what it means for me to use social media. Because a lot of my colleagues who sit in the audience say, well, Juan's always on his phone, he's always tweeting, he's always on Facebook, and there's a lot of moving parts that come to this stuff. Because the people who I work with are not sitting right next to me in the classroom. They're far away, they're in Illinois or in Michigan. And we need to be in constant communication. And as technology continues to evolve, the world continues to shrink, and I can only start to imagine what kind of wonderful things we'll be able to do as we continue to evolve with technological advances. Thank you.